This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning. A woman murdered after a triple shooting overnight. New bail possible after a bail breach. Judges to use discretion in deciding whether to grant new bail applications as Prime Minister Davis defends contracts to people on bail. And we're talking with Crime Stoppers Bahamas. Is it working? We'll get the details. It's all straight ahead this morning. I'm Dwight Strachan, and this is Morning Blend.
Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day. It's the start of a new way. You know that it's here. It's the start of the end of the old way. Wake up, it's a new day. Wake up, it's a new day.
Good morning again, Bahamas. It is Thursday, February 1st, 2024. This is Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9. Again, I'm Dwight Strachan. In a moment, Laverne Gardner will be joining us. Also, this morning in business, we are talking with Urka about the ITU Youth Strategy and Generation Connect Youth Envoys, what that's all about, and important deadlines that are approaching. We'll get the details. That's all ahead. But first, it's time for the overnight, the latest breaking news from while we're sleeping, and the top national and international headlines this morning. In the overnight, a woman murdered during a triple shooting. It happened last night on Ragged Island Street. ASP Damien Robinson, officer in charge of the Saturation Patrol Unit, saying the shooting happened sometime after 7 p.m. and police were alerted via ShotSpotter. When officers arrived, they met two women and a man suffering from gunshot wounds. Police say that one of the women died at the scene. The other two victims were taken to the hospital, and their conditions weren't known as of late last night. Robinson says the deceased is the police now, saying the deceased was recently in police custody. The woman is said to be in her mid to late 30s, and that she apparently was in custody for a short time about a week or so ago, questioned in relation to another murder incident. Police saying that the only lead they have was that a small blue car was seen fleeing the scene. A man and a woman have been charged in connection with a fatal stabbing over the weekend. Prosecutors say Bardon Major, a 20-year-old, is responsible for the January 27th murder of Sanchez Gittins, who was stabbed to death at a bar on East Street. 20-year-old Nell Major is charged with abetment to Gittins' murder. The accused were not required to enter pleas to the charges when they made their initial court appearance before Magistrate Raquel Wims. They were denied bail and will return to court in April to receive a voluntary bill of indictment. Amendments to the Bail Act will mean that individuals who violate the conditions of their bail will have it revoked. but they'll be free to make another bail application, and judges will use their discretion in determining whether to release them once again. That's according to Prime Minister Philip Davis, who led debate in the House of Assembly on amendments to the law yesterday. He said that in those cases where there are sufficient mitigating factors, such that the judge determines no such risks exist, the judge will maintain the discretion to grant a new application for bail after due process. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister defending his government's decision to award contracts to people on bail. During debate on the amendments yesterday, Killarney MP Dr. Hubert Minnis, the former Prime Minister, asking Davis to commit to not awarding contracts to criminals. On a point of order, the Prime Minister asked Minnis what he meant. He said, quote, that means we should not give contracts to criminals. Is that what you are saying? It went back and forth from there for quite a bit, but the Prime Minister did not elaborate on some of these contracts. While in Trinidad last year, he said his government started a program to engage former gang members with jobs. According to a Trinidadian newspaper, the Prime Minister said the jobs include cleaning communities for a 6 to 8 week period. Former Prime Minister Minnis told Davis yesterday that he was not referring to what he called the little man. He said he knows what he's talking about, inferring that there are some bigger jobs being awarded. Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, Jessica Cooper, who is also the Deputy Prime Minister, telling Parliament that recent international news reports on the U.S. Embassy's updated travel advisory to the country are sensationalized and will not cause long-term damage to tourism numbers. He spoke during debate on proposed amendments to the Bail Act. Since the start of the new year, there have been now 20 murders in the Bahamas, 19 on New Providence and 1 in Abaco. Though most of the murders are believed to have been retaliatory incidents or conflict-related or gang-related, the frequency and boldness of them, many happening in daylight, have prompted worry among many in the public. The U.S. Embassy last week updated its travel advisory, noting the spate of murders, but Cooper says none of the incidents were tourist-related. And a 30-year-old mother accused of burning her 8-year-old son's hands with a clothing iron denied a cruelty to children charge yesterday. The boy's father appeared in court along with her and is charged with failing to report the abuse of a minor. They both pleaded not guilty of their arraignment before Senior Magistrate Shaka Serville. Bail was set at $8,000 each. They're scheduled to appear before Assistant Chief Magistrate Carolyn Vogue Evans on February 12th. The names of the defendants have been withheld to protect the identity of the minor. Overseas, the prospect of a full-scale war between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah militia terrifying people on both sides of the border, but some see it as an inevitable fallout from Israel's ongoing war against Hamas in Gaza. Such a war could be the most destructive either side has ever experienced. Israel and Hezbollah each have lessons from their last war in 2006, a month-long conflict that ended in a draw. They've also had 4 months to prepare for another war, even as the United States tries to prevent a widening of the conflict in the region. An Israel-Hezbollah war would be a total disaster, according to UN Secretary Antonio Guterres. He warned about this last month, amid a flurry of shuttle diplomacy by the U.S. and Europe. Iran-backed Hezbollah seemed caught off guard by Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. Since then, Hezbollah and Israel have exchanged daily cross-border strikes, escalating gradually. Israel also carried out targeted killings of Hezbollah and Hamas figures in Lebanon. And convoys with hundreds of angry farmers driving heavy-duty tractors created chaos outside the European Union's headquarters today, demanding leaders at an EU summit provide relief from rising prices and bureaucracy. Farmers pelted police in the Belgian capital with firecrackers, eggs, and beer bottles through thick smoke from burning bales of hay. And security forces used water cannons to douse fires and keep a farmer from felling a tree on the steps of the European Parliament. Thursdays are the culmination of weeks of protests around the bloc whose farmers say it's becoming harder than ever to make a decent living as energy and fertilizer costs surge because of Russia's war in Ukraine. More and cheaper farm imports make it hard to compete also, and climate change-fueled droughts, floods, or fires are destroying crops. Farmers are a key electoral group, both at the EU and national levels, and leaders have scrambled to respond to their demands ahead of EU parliamentary elections in June. In recent weeks, populists and hard-right politicians have latched on to the farmers' plights. And Venezuelans were promised a presidential election in the second half of 2024 after President Nicolas Maduro and the faction of the opposition backed by the United States government reached an agreement in October. The opposing sides also agreed to recognize and respect the party's right to choose a candidate freely, take steps that would reverse government decisions blocking politicians from running for office, and invite international electoral observers. The government of the past 3 months has shown it is willing to test the limits of the agreement, though, discrediting the opposition's presidential primary, arresting numerous perceived or actual adversaries, and repeatedly characterizing members of the opposition as hate-spewing criminals. But the biggest test comes Friday when Venezuela's highest court, aligned with Maduro's government, last Friday blocked the presidential candidacy of Maria Corina Machado by upholding an administrative decision that bans her on running for office for 15 years. The ban has not sidelined Machado so far, though. The former lawmaker on Monday told supporters and reporters that Venezuela will have a presidential election in 2024 in which she will defeat Nicolas Maduro, but a date for the vote has not been set as yet. Jorge Rodriguez, Maduro's chief negotiator and the leader of the country's National Assembly, quickly dismissed that challenge, though. In sports, with the news of cancellation of the BAISS Track and Field Championships gaining more and more traction by the minute, it's now being reported that officials in the BAISS, the Bahamas Association of Independent Secondary Schools, and the B3As, the Bahamas Association of Athletic Associations, and the National Sports Authority, the NSA, are feverishly looking for ways to bridge the gap and somehow, some way, revisit the decision to cancel the meet. BAISS officials remaining tight-lipped on any decision to cancel yesterday. But B3A's President Jermico Archer says it's their hope that a resolution will be reached in short order. Archer says it's unfortunate that it has come to this point, particularly with the proposed schedule being agreed to from the beginning of the season, the track and field season, and with them facing a loaded schedule the rest of the way and few options available. In a lengthy letter obtained by Guardian Sports from Archer to the BAISS Conference of Principals on Wednesday, the B3 boss said that the calendar of events was mapped out from the start of the season and it was running smoothly up until mid-January when there was a request made for a change in the schedule, which particularly referenced the date of the BAISS championships. It's understood that each year the BAISS and the GSSSA, the Government Secondary School Sports Association, take turns in having first preference for the dates of the respective track and field championships. It's quite a mess. You can read more about it in today's Guardian Sports section, though. And flag football is taking off in the Bahamas. 3 local teams departed for Orlando yesterday, preparing to take part in the NFL Flag Football Championships during the NFL's Pro Bowl weekend this weekend. Weekend of activities in Central Florida gets underway today and runs through Sunday. It's the second year of the NFL's revamped Pro Bowl format, and the multi-day event will conclude with the NFL Pro Bowl games, highlighted by a 7-on-7 flag football game between the NFL, the National Football Conference, and the AFC, the American Football Conference Pro Bowlers. For the Bahamas, one adult team and two youth teams will be in action, looking for supremacy in the region and also to set the stage for continued growth of the sport here in the Bahamas. Details on that in today's Guardian Sports section. That's sports, and that's the overnight. Time for your first look at weather. In your first look at weather for today, we've got a fast-moving cold front that's going to exit the Bahamas today, leaving cooler temperatures and windy conditions behind it. We've got a number of warnings, though. Hazardous marine conditions will persist, and mariners are advised not to venture far from port, and beachgoers should exercise caution when getting into the water, as there's a moderate risk of rip currents along north and east coast beaches. For all areas today, look for partly sunny, breezy, and mild conditions, becoming mostly fair and a bit breezy and quite cool tonight. Small craft operators advised not to venture far from port. Winds northwest to northeast at 10 to 15 knots with slightly higher gusts offshore near Atlantic exposed islands. Seas 2 to 4 feet near shore, but up to 8 to 10 feet offshore and along Atlantic exposures. It's 67 degrees under partly cloudy skies right now in Nassau. We're looking for highs getting up to around 73 Fahrenheit, 23 Celsius. Overnight lows tonight getting down to about 64 Fahrenheit, 17 Celsius. That's your first look at weather this morning. We'll have your extended outlook coming up after traffic in just a bit. It is time for a break, but when we come back, we're discussing the day's top stories right here on Morning Blend on Guardian Radio 96.9, your home for fresh news and smart talk all day.
Struggling to repay your loan? Let us help you get back on track with payment terms that suits your financial situation and improve your credit score and credit report with the Bahamas Credit Bureau. Inquire about our restructured loans today. Call us at 356-7764.
To all homeowners, this is your reminder that Scotiabank encourages all taxpayers to sell outstanding real property taxes before March 31st, 2024. We want to ensure that you're up to date on all tax obligations. Failure to comply may affect your monthly mortgage payments and the total balance owing under your mortgage. We invite you to contact the RPT office of the Department of Inland Revenue or your nearest branch or bank officer if you require additional information or assistance. Stay on top of your taxes with Scotiabank.
Screws and Fasteners World, Balfour Avenue and Palm Beach Street, has those hard-to-find fasteners for you right now. You can find stainless steel regular hex, carriage bolts, galvanized bolts, threaded rods, nails, self-tap screws, sex bolts, anchor bolts, turnbuckles, masonry tools, hand tools, and weed whacker strings. Check out the rope select.
DC Flow Channel 612. You can tweet us at morningblend969 or facebook.com/morningblend969. Text us on the Guardian Radio text line powered by BTC 4224796. Standard text rates apply. Once again, I'm Dwight Strachan. Joining me now, Laverne Gardner. Laverne, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's February already.
It is February 1st.
My goodness, wow.
Here we are.
So, hey, that means that we are only a few days away from 242 Day, February 24th, and that's your day.